All right, welcome to the first of its kind, world-changing manufacturers network. Lisa Ryan has her ears to the ground and her heart in the game. Get ongoing education and new connections right here with Lisa and the Manufacturers Network. Buckle your seat, listen, and spread the word. Here's Lisa.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Jason Kruger. Jason is a partner at Citrin Cooperman, and his expertise lies in empowering manufacturers with real-time financial insights to enhance profitability and streamline operations. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lisa. Glad to be on.
Share with us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to start or to join Citrin Cooperman.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, my background obviously is in finance and accounting. Spent the first probably close to 10 years of my career in public accounting, with most of it with Deloitte, which is one of the large public accounting firms. They provide all different types of services, but my focus was financial statement audit. And so I got to see work with a number of different companies in different industries, a number of them obviously in the manufacturing space, and got to see the guts of how businesses work and how companies account for different information. When you talk about manufacturing, you're talking about inventory, different profitability levels, and so on. From there, I just saw a big need in the small mid-market, that the companies in the small mid-market really deserved better than what they had as it relates to their accounting and financial support for their company. And so what I mean by that is a lot of companies, and especially in the manufacturing space, they might start off with a bookkeeper, and then they grow and they start to realize that the bookkeeper might not have the sophistication that they need to support the levels of complexity that they now have as a business. And manufacturing especially is much more complex from an accounting and financial perspective, because you are dealing with inventory and the flow of inventory and how that gets recorded. And a lot of companies then, especially in manufacturing, need to start developing and providing their financial information to third parties. So you're talking about banking relationships, financing opportunities, potentially bringing in investors. And so not having good financial information starts to impact the ability of these companies to be successful in that way. And so what I started in 2008 is a company called Signature Analytics. And it really, what we did and what we do now is support companies on a fractional basis so that they have the top talent and they're able to leverage that top talent to drive their business forward through better financial information, making sure that everything from the books are being closed every month, even accounts payable and accounts receivable are being processed effectively, but ultimately getting good reporting for owners and business and executives to be able to make good decisions. And so that's where that then progressed. We grew that company, and then more recently, we joined Citrin Cooperman, which is a much larger public accounting firm that also provides tax, audit, and other consulting services. But my main focus is really on working with business owners in the small, mid-sized business community, that to really give them the financial acumen and the information they need to grow their business.
So how does an outsourced financial management differ from traditional in-house accounting, and why might it be a game changer for manufacturers to do it that way?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest issue is, I think, the cost of hiring top talent in a particular role can be very expensive. The cost of a CFO, the cost of a controller. And so what happens a lot of times is that we see companies, they try to hire one person and they try to have them play every role. And so what they end up, though, having somebody that might not have the sophistication to provide that strategic support at the CFO level. And they're also then all being asked to do everything from bank reconciliations to paying bills and so on. And so what we're able to do is, on a fractional or from an outsourced perspective, is make sure that they have the right people doing the right thing at the right time. So instead of hiring a full-time CFO, they can leverage someone from our team for 20 hours a month. Instead of hiring a full-time controller, the controller is somebody that really drives success of accounting. They don't need to be doing bank recs and so on. So let's focus on that leadership from a controller perspective that can come in and work with their existing team to make sure that they have everything in order and they're able to produce good financial information. And so that person, maybe they bring a controller on from our team for 40 hours a month. And so then we can then adapt and fill in the gaps within their existing team to become part of their overall team and structure. And that gives them a lot of flexibility and scalability based on the direction of their business.
I'm glad you said that working with their current team, because that does give them some flexibility. But how do you get the buy-in? All of a sudden, this other firm, this strange firm is coming over and taking my job. So there's probably some fear from the people that are there. From a workforce issue, how do you deal with that and get the buy-in that you need to be successful?
Yeah. As you mentioned, we're not looking to come in and replace the existing team unless there's obviously some sort of an issue happening. But our goal is to make sure that the company has the right solution as they move forward. And so a lot of times the company has, in a lot of our clients, the company has grown and outgrown their current team. So the current team and the current individuals in place, they're feeling in over their head. They have too much going on. The company knows they do need to hire somebody, but they also know it's expensive to hire a full-time person. And so they're trying to figure out how that all works. And so in a lot of cases, we come in and the team that's already there is more than happy to work with us because they know that we can provide them the support that they've been lacking up until this point. And it's really about collaboration and how we can make sure that we have clearly defined roles and responsibilities and working together as a team. But a lot of cases, as I mentioned, is the team becomes overwhelmed because of the growth that may have occurred. They were at 2 million, then they're 5 million, now they're 10 or 20 or 30 million, and they've been trying to use that same team, and the complexities have happened. And so we can provide that support in areas where they just don't have the experience, and it gives them a sense of relief and collaboration. So we like to be proactive in collaborating with the existing team and trying to explain to them that, hey, we're here to help and provide you the support you need to be successful.
And are you doing that on site or do you do it remote? And the reason that I ask is because a lot of people will ask me in my programs about working with remote or working with hybrid employees. And again, how do you get the people on site to collaborate with the people who are remote? What does that look like in terms of that collaboration?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I guess it depends, depending on if our team is in the same location as our client. We absolutely can be on site. With accounting and finance these days, everything can be done fully remote, obviously. But if we are doing things fully remote, we're very aware, and it's very important that we continue a good cadence from a communication perspective. And so we're very big on communication, ongoing communication, how we communicate, how frequent we communicate. And it should be a fluid relationship where it's not a situation where, hey, you know what, we're only available on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 10 and 2. It's, hey, it's fluid. We're part of your team. We just don't happen to be on site sitting next to you all day long. So if we are remote, it's a situation where we make sure we set expectations from a communication perspective, and we're very clear on that.
And I would imagine that cameras on is a very important part of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We want to be, like I said, we want to be part of your team. We don't want to be looked at as just an outside vendor. We're part of your team. We're working together. And when we're working with our internal team, it's constant collaboration and constant support and working together as a team.
What are some of the financial metrics that manufacturers should focus on if they want to ensure long-term success, especially if they've experienced that growth spurt and they don't really know where to focus first?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing in any business, but also especially in manufacturing, is being able to successfully understand your flow of cash. So cash flow. It sounds obvious, but I've seen a number of companies grow themselves out of cash and out of a business almost. And so understanding your flow of cash is critical. In manufacturing, a lot of times you're having to buy the product up front, so cash out the door. Then you got to manufacture the product, you got to pay your employees during the manufacturing process, then you sell it, and then you might not actually receive the cash for another 30, 60 days after that. So that cash cycle in manufacturing is much longer than other industries. And so being able to have visibility into the future of what your cash flows look like is critical in really being able to make decisions to sustain and to grow your business. Without that, you're flying blind, you're trying to manage it in your head, you're looking at your bank account every day and you're trying to figure it out. And so being able to truly manage cash is critical. And so that's the first thing we do when we work with our clients. It's let's sit down, let's understand the flow of your cash and what it looks like over the next 13 weeks or a quarter. And if we can certainly project out longer than that, but then it gets a little fuzzy and it gets a little bit more difficult. But we're constantly updating that at probably weekly initially, is how do we continue to update that? The next thing is I'll say, and a good example I have of that is I've talked to an owner of a manufacturing business before, and they said, hey, look at my income statement or look at my P&L. It shows that we've made all this money this year, but I have no cash. Where is everything? Like, why am I broke? And the answer, I said, there's probably two examples. One is the numbers are not accurate, which is possible. The second is in manufacturing, a lot of times your cash is sitting on the shelf. It's in inventory. And so, or it might be in receivables. Maybe you haven't collected. So you may be showing a large profit, but you haven't collected the cash on the sales. And so that can be a challenge as well. From an accounting and financial perspective, tracking of inventory and recording inventory and ultimately cost of goods is critical. And I would say a majority of companies that we work with, the inventory tracking is not accurate, which ultimately means that profitability is not accurate, your numbers are not accurate, you don't have good information. So having a process or a system, using a good system to track inventory is critical, whether it's the accounting system or the ERP system or a manufacturing inventory module. There's got to be a good process to do that. Once you have the foundations in place, then we can start truly understanding what the margins are on your specific products that you're selling, not just as a whole, as a business, but we can start to break it down and really understand the margins. And that then impacts your ability to negotiate with your vendors. It impacts your ability to adjust pricing, to really drive new opportunities in other areas, or to maximize profitability of your business. And so those are the areas where, from a starting point, is how we would typically look at your business, which is, let's make sure we understand the cash flows. Let's make sure we have confidence in the processes to produce good numbers. And then once you do that, then we can start getting into the good stuff, which is how profitable really are you? And let's understand profitability to the percentage point, not just, hey, our margin's somewhere between 40 and 50%. Is it 40%? Is it 50%? Because 10% on a $10 million company, that's $1 million swing. And that drops right to the bottom line. And so we want to get down to the percentage point so we can manage that and really maximize profitability.
So funny, because so many things that you're saying are hitting home. I'm actually married to a cost accountant who works in manufacturing. Yes.
That's
and
great.
when they're doing their Teams calls and going line by line through all this stuff, personally, I want to poke my eyeballs out. Yeah. But I'm really glad that people do that. But the other thing too, it's like everything that I ever want to know about finance that I don't get when I listen to Scott is it sounds like you're doing an episode of Shark Tank, man. Because that's what they talk about, the cost of goods sold, your inventory. These people come in and they have all these POs and wondering where their dollars are. So it's just really interesting to see where is the money. And like you said, it's sitting on your shelf for all the things that you think that you're profitable and doing this much business, but without that cash flow, it's the number one question the sharks want to know too.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's why did you start your business? And a big part of that is to be profitable, to make money or to be successful. And yeah, it's great to tell your friends how much you've grown from a revenue perspective or what you've done. But at the end of the day, how do we maximize the cash that goes to the bottom, the profitability, the cash goes to the bottom line for you to either take it home with you or to be able to reinvest back into the business. And if you don't have clarity of your numbers, you're just going with the flow.
And even reinvesting back into the business, that's taking up your cash flow too. So you think you're doing a good thing. I'm not taking a paycheck at the beginning when people are doing that. You really need to be conscious of that money that's coming in, and especially working with the government where you may have 120 days before you get paid.
Yep, exactly.
So in your experience, how can real-time financial data really transform the way that manufacturers are making strategic decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. The challenge we see a lot of times is company, they may close their books and get financials, but it might be 30, 60, 90 days later, right? And by then the data's old and you look at it and you put it in the drawer and then you keep moving on. And so the first step is when we look at reporting, we look at you have your monthly reporting. So can you close your books and develop a good monthly financial package that tells you what's really happening with your business. The second is, what are the metrics that I want to be looking at during the month? So on more of a real-time basis, as you mentioned. And with manufacturing, the inventory and the ordering process, it's critical to really know what your inventory levels are as you're on a real-time basis so that you can make decisions to keep that as efficient as possible. Managing inventory levels is part of managing cash in a lot of cases. And we've seen companies that they like to buy, they think, oh, there's a good deal over here, let's buy this, a good deal over here, let's buy this. And before you know it, they have way too much inventory, or they have inventory that is just not turning. And so they have inventory that's been sitting on the shelf for a year or 2 years, and at some point it's going to become obsolete. But as we talked about before, that's just cash sitting on the shelves. So how are we tracking our inventory levels and how are we making decisions on how we're ordering on a real-time basis is critical in manufacturing, obviously. So I would say that's probably the biggest point from a real-time perspective and that bleeds into operations and so on, is managing the flow of inventory along with managing cash flow to be able to maximize the decisions that you're making.
So what are some of the common financial challenges in manufacturing and how can companies overcome those?
Yeah, the first is obvious, and we've talked about it, is obviously I'm a finance guy and your husband is too, and the first thing that he would probably say is that the biggest item is make sure you have good numbers that you can trust. And so it sounds easy, but it's a little bit more difficult than that, especially in manufacturing, because there are some complexities as it relates to cost accounting, tracking of inventory. And so having somebody that has that sophistication that can do that effectively can be expensive and is difficult to find. And so that would be the first thing is, what are some challenges, how to overcome them? It's, well, first, make sure you have good information and good numbers. Then start to develop a reporting infrastructure that will allow you give you visibility to allow you to make decisions. And the reporting infrastructure should be also geared towards what are your goals for the business? Is this a business that you want to maintain over a long period of time? Are you looking to exit in the next 3 to 5 years? What does that mean? If you're looking at an exit, how do we maximize the overall valuation of the company? And what are the metrics that drive valuation? And so now we're getting into future exit planning and different levels of valuation based on the type of business you are and how do we maximize that? So we could talk a whole nother episode on that, but that is a critical piece to understand, is what are the goals of the individual and management within their business so they have the right tools to maximize the areas of the business that they prioritize.
So what about AI? Is that something that is helpful in accounting? Are there some pros? What are the things to watch out for? We're talking about AI for basically everything these days. Mm-hmm. So where does it fit here?
Yeah, I think it definitely, I think what we're seeing is from an from an accounting perspective, it's based on the systems that you use. So it's unless you want to spend a lot of money and customize something, which I don't recommend for most of the audience, we're left to try to leverage and hope that the systems that we're using are continuously being updated and improved upon. And there is some levels of AI within those, let's call it ERP system or the accounting system or the technology that we've already off the shelf technology. So what we've been seeing is that there's a lot of opportunity for AI as it relates to the analysis side of a business and being able to bifurcate and information and take lots of information and be able to make sense of it. And also the other piece is being able to really dig deeper from an understanding of how we look at the business and how we understand what's happening with the business. And then ultimately, how do we project out what that means? But I still think that AI, although it's a very common word, it's still, as you mentioned, you hear it all day long, but nobody really truly knows what it means. So it's still I think everybody's still trying to figure out what that means outside of going to Chat GPT and typing in some information and it's spitting out some good information for you. There's a lot of efficiencies that can be had and can be leveraged through something like a Chat GPT. But I think that especially in the manufacturing space, it's still new and there's a lot of just things that people are trying to figure out at this point is what I would say.
As we're starting to get to the end of our time together, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have that would be important for my audience to know?
I would say that we're likely talking to a lot of business owners. And the one thing that I like to say as having run a business myself is it's important to know all aspects of your business. So a business owner likely knows the manufacturing process very well. They know their product very well. They know the operational side very well, I'm sure, which is why they started the business. But now as a business owner, you also have sales and you have HR and you have marketing and you have accounting and finance. And so really understanding and knowing all aspects of your business is critical to long-term success. And what I've seen in a lot of cases where there's been a failure is business owners that think, okay, I know the operational side. I'll just hire a bookkeeper, I'll hire an accountant, and they'll take care of that. And I'll just hire a sales guy or a saleswoman, and they'll take care of that. And what they find is that the salesperson is not as effective as they thought they might be. The accounting is not driving any value and may or may not be accurate. And so you don't have to be an expert in each area, but you still need to be aware of how things work and be able to drive and manage each of those areas to be able to maximize the value you get out of it.
And if somebody did want to continue the conversation with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you and how can you help?
Yeah, sure. I'm on LinkedIn. Is easy. Jason Kruger at Citrin Cooperman. Happy to, if anyone wants to reach out to me, my email is the letter J, Kruger at citrincooperman.com. Our website is another way to get a hold of us, citrincooperman.com. Really, I love talking to business owners. If we can help in any way, happy to do that. If not, you probably know somebody that can help in any challenge or business challenge that they might be having.
All right. Jason, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network Podcast. Do me a favor and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can grow this network and connect more fantastic folks just like you. You can either send your buddies to the website at manufacturers-network.com or share the Manufacturers Network podcast on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you and your industry friends hang out. The bigger and faster we grow the network, the stronger and deeper the community we'll all have. Thanks again, and I appreciate you.